So we've snuck into yet another hotel room here at GDC, and we caught up with Ed from Firaxis. And Gods and Kings, I just got a demo, and you know, it's easy when you get a press release about a new expansion that's like, all right, they're adding religion to Civ 5. That's not a huge deal, because I've played religion in the previous Civ games, but wow, when I saw the demo, it was just like, that's going to change the way I play the game completely.
Yeah, we took a look at what religion was doing in Civ 4, and we thought, well, all the different religions in the game, they're sort of similar. There's not really a big difference. It's sort of just a name that's tied to you pushing your religion across the map, but everyone got the same benefits out of it. We thought it'd be a much more interesting gameplay experience if the religions that you were creating actually had tangible effects on the game world, and you could decide, I'm playing a culture game, I'm going to configure my religion around a set of beliefs, because each of our religions gets 5 different gameplay effects that we call beliefs that you can put into it. And if you can configure a religion to kind of complement the strategy that you're going for, and maybe even complement which civilization you've chosen, you've got a really rich way of kind of building up the bonuses that you need and kind of exploring a strategic path through the game. And that's what we find exciting is we've been testing it now, you know, with probably the whole religion system in place for, you know, many months now, but we're still finding brand new strategies and ways to explore it, and there are just thousands more combinations out there that other people are going to find. So we're very excited about it for that reason.
Yeah, because I think religion was one of those things that, yes, it was on top of everything else, and you didn't really think about it. It was just there, and it aided other things that you were doing, but you didn't really pursue it like as a thing on its own.
Right. It was there and gave great historical, you know, context and flavor to everything. And you had interesting situations like England being entirely enthralled with Buddhism that people found, you know, wildly entertaining, but they didn't really have a big gameplay implication. Now you've got the situation where you have to make a key decision early on in the game. Am I going to pursue a religion or not? And if you pursue it, you want to be right there with the AI, getting to the religion founding and creation as early as you can, because there's a limited number of beliefs in the game. There are only about 50 of them. And whoever gets there first gets to pull that one from the pool of beliefs, and no one else can get it. And based on where you are in the map, you might have some beliefs that are really important based on the terrain you're in. They might be important based on the strategy you're pursuing. There's some that are really, you know, even though it's a religious system, it's often, if you put the right beliefs together, something that can help you in a military conquest mode. And so we're just finding all sorts of reasons that when you make that early decision to either go for religion or not, you want to pursue it heavily. And it's okay not to choose to go into religion. That means you don't have to invest in building shrines and temples and some of the other activities, because religion will come to you, and you'll get maybe not quite as many benefits from it, and you won't get to choose what those benefits are, but you'll still be getting tangible boosts to your civilization out of it.
And the problem is that you might get some drawbacks as well that you didn't count on, you know, because you choose that just war thing, and then you might be easier to they might have an easier time invading your country.
Yeah, you're going to have to pay careful attention to what the other powers are doing with religion as well. It's not just about what you've chosen to do yourself. It's also about whether they've chosen a belief that could be harmful long-term for you. One that we didn't show in the demo that's particularly interesting is called Holy Warriors. And normally you spend faith on kind of peaceful things like missionaries and building cathedrals or mosques or pagodas in your cities. But if you choose the Holy Warriors belief, then the faith that your people are building up can actually be used to purchase military units through the Renaissance. Not late in the game, but in that kind of heavy crusading period of history, all of a sudden you can use your religion to kind of spur your people into great military action. And that's a dangerous belief, especially if the AI's got that on your borders. You'll want to know about that.
Yeah, and on the reverse side of missionaries, you got the inquisitors. so you can sort of stomp down on any religious that you don't want to have in your nation as well.
Yeah, and we thought, maybe we should throw an achievement in the game so that maybe if the Spanish use the Inquisitors, that'll be a particularly interesting thing to have succeeded on. But yeah, the Inquisitors are kind of the anti-missionaries, where instead of adding religious pressure to a city, they take it away. But in this case, you're taking it away from those other civilizations that are trying to push the religion onto you and saying, get that out.
So you touched on it, and it's quite interesting that religion plays different part during the different eras of the game, and sort of it also sort of feeds into other systems that you're bringing into the game, like espionage is like playing a bigger role later on in the game. How is that flow sort of going to be in the game?
What we thought was the game Civilization has always been terrific with establishing a sense of the sweep of time and the sweep of history. And you see that in the game in a lot of ways, especially with like the military units. Just you start with archers and bowmen, and they can shoot a ranged unit, shoot arrows across a river, but that's nowhere near as cool as having fighters and bombers and aircraft carriers and stuff like that later in the game. So on the military side of the game, you already got that great sense of progression. But we felt like the diplomatic game just didn't really change much. You could form friendships, you could denounce people, and that was always sort of the same in the beginning of the game as the end. And you can still form friendships during any time of the game, but we wanted to introduce some element of sort of the changing nature of diplomatic relations through history into the game. And so that's why now you'll see things like very early in the game, the most important thing diplomatically is fighting for territory and who's settling where. And then in the middle of the game, as the religions have formed, people are very focused in on, are you spreading a religion over my civilization that I don't want there? And maybe if they're not fighting the religious game, they'll be happy that you're spreading their religion to them, because then they'll be getting the benefits from them. So then the middle part of the game, religion is the important diplomatic factor. And then late in the game, the new espionage system that we showed you is obviously a key driver to diplomatic interactions there, and you can catch people spying on you, and people can get mad about that, and you can promise not to do it, but then go back on that promise. But we also have added sort of an ideological component where your choice of late game policy trees puts you in one or the other of three different ideological camps. And that's sort of giving a little bit of a kind of Cold War, Eastern Bloc versus Western Bloc feel to the late game as well, which we feel like with all these changes, maybe you're not getting quite the sense of progression you are at the military side of the game, but there's a lot more of it in the diplomatic side of the game than there was before.
And that takes us into how you interact with city-states as well, because there's a lot more options there. It's not just about bribing them off and that sort of thing.
Exactly. We wanted to make sure that gold was de-emphasized as a way to influence city-states, and that a new quest system that we put in place, which built on a few of the interactions you had with city-states with clearing out barbarians and things like that in the original game, that we took that quest system and made it much richer and deeper. City-states can have up to 3 quests. They can have quests with more than 1 power at a time. There's a wide variety of types of quests. And late in the game, the city-states are tied in with our espionage system as well. And your agents, as well as stealing technologies and getting intrigue from other major powers, can go into those minor powers, the city-states, and work with them the way the Soviets and the U.S. might have worked with a third world country during the Cold War era. And all of a sudden, you're either rigging the elections in those city-states, or maybe even trying to just throw a government out of power entirely with a coup. It can be dangerous for your spies to do that, but it's a great way to quickly get influence. You can see, those late game UN elections to try to determine victory are going to be very crazy with coups and spying and all the quest activity going on at the same time.
So we've touched on most of the changes. Is there any particular new thing that you felt we've left out of this interview that you think players need to know about?
Well, we should talk a little bit about what we've done with the combat system. The combat system has received attention, from land combat through the way that all the units are introduced in the technology tree to a lot of changes on the naval combat side. So I'll go through over 2 or 3 of those real quickly. One is that we have introduced a whole upgrade path for ranged units. They don't end at the crossbow anymore. You can now go up through the Gatling gun to the machine gun. We have changed the hit point scale for all combat units, so it's now, we have more fidelity over that system, and it's now done on a 100-point scale instead of a 10-point scale, which lets us kind of finely tune the pacing of combat, which we thought was a little bit too quick. And then with the naval units, we had issues with naval invasions just taking up too much space on the map, so we allowed embarked land units to stack with naval units, which kind of compacts a naval formation. And we've split naval units into 2 types, naval melee units and naval ranged units, so that there's just more going on with that combat. There's more strategic decisions about, you know, who you put up in the front line and whether or not you're going to actually try to use your naval melee units, which can attack units just on, you know, like a grassland tile on the shore. But like a ranged unit can. But the great things that they can do for you is they can actually go and attack the coastal cities and either pillage them for gold or actually capture them.
All right, and you're bringing it out later this spring?
Yes, should be available late this spring to retail outlets, Steam, online retailers. So we're excited to let everyone have a chance to try it out.